Hi everyone, this week for our video EBC, we're in a pretty crazy spot. We're actually at the north side of Minneapolis's airport to see these landing lights in the runway. The reason we're here is we're going to talk about Matthew 5 verses 13 through 20, where Jesus says that we are the salt of the earth and that we are the light of the world. First of all, we're going to talk about salt for a moment, and I love this metaphor that we're the salt of the earth. If you go out on the internet, there are all sorts of theories about what salt of the earth means, and some of what's there actually is pretty self-assured about what Jesus meant with no real reason. The other thing that you find when you go out looking at the salt of the earth is a whole lot of information about whether or not salt loses its taste. Because in Jesus' metaphor, Jesus says that we are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, then it just gets thrown away. So there's all sorts of theories about whether or not salt can be something other than salty. And by the way, it can't be something other than salty unless there are impurities in it or it gets subjected to moisture or, well, no, wait, I digress. That's not what we're talking about here. What we are talking about is that metaphor that we're the salt of the earth. And I think Jesus is talking in metaphors here because he wants us to be able to apply that to our everyday lives. To me, salt does work. Salt can be salty, it can taste good, it can preserve meat, or if we're out here at a runway, it can actually be used to de-ice the runway. God made that salt and it already exists in order to do the things that God made it to do. Now, when we talk about light, we're also talking about things like these wonderful landing lights here. And I'm wondering whether or not these landing lights are actually something that is what God is talking about and Jesus is talking about when he asks us to be the light of the world. And I don't think that's quite it. I think that, oh, here comes a plane. I think that Jesus is actually talking about something more like a campfire, something that does work. Remember that Jesus would have been talking about candles. Jesus would have been talking about fire, the things that you purposefully light in order to do that work, in order to cook food or see something. I think Jesus is asking us to be purposeful about what we're doing in our lives too, to be a light for other people, to provide that warmth, to provide that service, and to find a way to be purposeful for Jesus. So this week, whether you're thinking about it as salt and doing that work, or whether you're thinking about it as light, be that light, that warmth, that salt, doing that work for others in your lives. Have a great week, everyone.